Gentlemen, the first order of the evening is everybody who's on my left or on my right, we're asking you to fill up the seats in the middle so that we can have a more harmonious evening's activities. So if you're sitting to my left or to my right, please come on into the middle. Don't all shout and run to the seats at once.
So everybody just move along.
No, I moved it. No, Mr. Higgins was protected. No, I am the protector.
Okay. My name is Pat Montague, and it's my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon to kind of run you through the evening's activities. We're going to start off with welcoming Mr. Steve Higgins to the podium to lead us in Jamaica's national anthem. Mr. Higgins.
Please stand as we sing the national anthem. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave the proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. It's meant to be my leading the national anthem, which means that you guys should sing. So could you please sing with me the national anthem of Jamaica? Please. Eternal Father, bless our land. Guard us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be yours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Teach us true respect for all. Stir response to duty's call. Strengthen us the weak to cherish. Give us vision lest we perish. Knowledge send us, Heavenly Father. Grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be yours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. At ease.
Thank you very much, Steve. I'm always moved when I hear Jamaica's national anthem, particularly because it's the only anthem in the entire world that really just calls on God and asks him to just bless us as a nation without putting us in the position to fight anybody or vanquish anybody and so on. So I'm always moved by that when I hear Jamaica's national anthem. I want to welcome you all here this afternoon, but in particular we have some special guests here this afternoon that we'd like to say a particular welcome to, and I'll start off with from the CARICOM Consular Corps of Miami. I want to welcome the Consul General of Barbados, Neval Greenidge. So great to have you here. And I do believe the Deputy Consul General is here as well, Gail Thompson. From Broward County, we want to welcome Commissioner Dale Holness from the Broward County Commission. From the great city of Lauderdale Lakes, we want to welcome Mayor Hazel Rogers. And from our host city, we want to welcome Commissioner Winston Barnes and Commissioner Maxwell Chambers. We'd also, of course, like to welcome some other special guests. Yeah. I did say that, Commissioner Maxwell Chambers from our... Oh, I apologize. I'm so sorry, my friend. We were having too much of a good time outside. Okay, I'd like to also welcome some other special guests here this afternoon from all of the alumni associations, the churches, and the charitable institutions, also from the business community, and of course, the media. I hope you'll say good things about our event for the afternoon. Nothing, though, that we do this afternoon would be without the good graces of our Lord and Savior. So I'm going to ask at this time Evangelist Michelle Phillips to give an invocation for the evening. Ms. Phillips.
Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. I'm going to ask you to just stand and let us bow our heads. Most righteous and heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for another evening in your presence. Lord, this could not have been possible without you. Father, as we convene this evening to speak about our country of Jamaica and to see how we can give back and how we can invest in our country, Lord God, we just ask you to bless the Consul General and his staff and all the members of the committee. Father, we ask you tonight to just let your presence be felt with every speaker. Father, we ask that every pocket that needs to invest, that can invest in all the information that we're going to get, we ask you, Lord God, that we will give back to our country. Father, we ask you to bless our Prime Minister, the members of Parliament, and Father, even as we're here this evening, you know each and every one of us by name and number. You know what we stand in need of. And so, Father, we ask your blessings on our lives. And so, God, as this evening continues, God, we ask that you allow your angels to dwell among us. Father, we thank you. Father, we praise you. Father, we lift you up and we magnify you. We give you all the glory, the honor, and the praise as we say thanks. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Evangelist Phillips. And by the way, they've asked me to let you know that for all of your friends who couldn't make it today, let them know that the event is being live streamed on IrieTimesStream.com through IrieTimes.com. So tell them to go to IrieTimes.com and they'll get Irie live stream, okay? So they can participate in this evening's activities even though they're not here. Investing in Jamaica is a good idea. And we're very pleased that the Consulate General of Jamaica decided to put together this community forum to kind of give you the information on how to invest now. That's what we're talking about this evening. And I don't know of a person who's more passionate about Jamaica, who's more interested in Jamaica and its development. I think we were very blessed in the Southeast United States when they decided to send this gentleman to be Jamaica's representative. But I won't get to him just now. I will ask Commissioner Barnes, who is here from the city of Miramar, to welcome us to the city. You know, we're no strangers to Miramar, but Winston, if you would.
Most protocol have already been observed, but let me just add to that the presence of the Consul General from Barbados, Mr. Neville Greenwich. Welcome, sir. And there was someone else that will come to mind. First of all, let me just say how fortunate you are to have me here this evening. I'll tell you quickly why. My daughter has 2 outstanding projects going, and I'm the head producer of those 2 projects. One is due on Saturday, another is due on Monday, so I have work to leave here and go do. Plus, the mayor and I are playing tag team this evening. He had to be somewhere else, the reason why he'd be late this evening. So if you see me disappearing once he gets here, be understanding. The city of Miramar offers you all, and by the way, my daughter will be very proud because I'm reading from my device. The city of Miramar welcomes you all to a very special Caribbean, South Florida place. We welcome you to our fair city. This event is special for a number of reasons. One being the fact that so many of us who reside here have a background similar to all of you in this audience. It is also important as a business-related event because of the strong presence of Jamaican businesses in the city. We boast of having the most Fortune 500 companies in our city, more than the vast majority of cities across this very continent. As a commissioner, I've had the privilege and the pleasure of entreating 2 Jamaican companies to come to the city of Miramar as their headquarters. Jamaica National is with us. I remember getting a phone call from a Jamaica National person, and I made one phone call to staff at the city. Things got fixed kind of quickly. Another business that I personally convinced to come to the city of Miramar was Grace Kennedy. Grace had its headquarters here, but as many of you in the business community know, Grace kind of got really big. They bought this really big, humongous company, and it was worthwhile for them to go towards that other situation and make that their headquarters. As a radio person, I understand the value of time. 30 seconds is very expensive, 60 more so. So I will not belabor you too long. I will say welcome to one and all to our fair city, and I know this will be a very rewarding evening for you. I hope you go away a little smarter than when you came here this evening. Thanks again for coming, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnes. And I'm one of the fortunate people who get to see him pretty often because I follow him on the radio on a Thursday and a Friday afternoon. And I'm always so encouraged when I hear him on the radio and I'm driving in and he has to say, caller, caller, caller. But anyway, our Consul General, I don't know if I've met someone who, as soon as I met them, I connected with as much as I've with our Consul General. He's passionate about Jamaica. He is totally entertaining. I don't know if you've hung out with him at any point in time, but you can't keep a straight face around him. But one thing about him that I know for sure is that he is concerned about Jamaica and Jamaica developing. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you to welcome our Consul General, the Honorable Consul General, Mr. Oliver Mayer, to the podium.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We just celebrated Miss Lou a couple of weeks ago. And when somebody come on the stage, Miss Lou always give them a big round of applause. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I just want to thank each of you for taking the time out to be here. This is the first in the series. And each person here, you're special because you are a part of the first in the series. So give yourselves a big round of applause. I want you to look at the person beside you, shake their hand and tell them thank you for coming. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I'm up here just for a couple of seconds. And there's a lady at the back already doing this to me. We welcome Cheryl Winter. Thank you for all your hard work. Consul General for Barbados, Neville Greenwich, my very good friend, Commissioner Dale Holness, Mayor Hazel Rogers, Commissioner Winston Barnes, Commissioner Maxwell Chambers, members of the media, our sponsors, Jamaica National, VMBS, Grace, Office Depot, Digicel, Jamaica USA Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for being here this evening. And I'll say it again for you, Shirley, in here. Grace, Western Union. Let's give our sponsors a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, my speech will be very short. I enjoyed the time, the fellowship we had outside, and I want to give our presenters as much time as possible. But for each one of you here this evening, there is good news happening in Jamaica. And a lot of it has come through partnerships. And I consider each of you here to be a partner. We're all partners for Jamaica. In 2009, Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio was at 147%. The country was basically bankrupt. And it was through partnership with the private sector, the government, the IMF, everybody coming together. Everybody had to negotiate a little piece had to come off of what they were entitled to, working together. And I'm proud to say, this year, our debt to GDP has come below 100%. That is something to clap for. It didn't happen through one person being a genius or a group of people having the magic wand. It happened through partnership. A lot of people had to work together. The EPOC group, which is considered to be the oversight group for the IMF program, has projected that in 5 years' time, Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio will be at 60%. Why am I saying all this? Because most analysts will agree that Jamaica is moving in the right direction. It's no longer an opinion. I think the facts are there. You will hear from the persons this evening where our unemployment rate is down from 12% to 8.3%. We have had record arrivals, tourist arrivals. Jamaica welcomed 4.3 million visitors to our island, accounting for $3 billion US dollars to our economy. We have had 16 consecutive quarters of growth, economic growth. Folks, lots of good news. Our stock market was considered to be #1 in the Caribbean. No. In the world. #1 stock market in the world. Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, these are things I want us all to be proud about, excited about, because all of us here are good news ambassadors. We need to get excited. Everybody we speak to is saying, look, the time to invest is now. And hence the series, Invest Now. And we want to have this as an ongoing series. Starting here now, we have some of the financial instruments we'll talk about. We can't solicit investment up here, of course. We speak generally about what's happening in Jamaica. But we'll have some seminars on agriculture, on health. And in that regard, our next speaker is our diaspora rep who works extremely hard for Jamaica, Mr. Wayne Golding. But before he comes up, one of the metrics we have for the diaspora conference, which takes place June 16th to 19th in Jamaica, is that healthcare is very important, and we want to adopt 55 clinics between now and June 16th. And we believe that the persons in this room can be a major catalyst. I was on a radio program. Listen very carefully. I was on a radio program a couple nights ago. Anybody ever hear that music? Duke of. All right. So Sir Duke came and visited me at the consulate, and of course, he had to start out with a certain things about what's happening with healthcare, and rightfully so. There were some challenges. So I started to tell Duke about this program, the Adopt a Clinic program, where in Jamaica, we have 320 clinics island-wide. And the initiative from the Ministry of Health is to have 100 clinics adopted. The entry point is very encouraging, and in that discussion with Duke, after him cuss a little, he said, you know what? Sign me up for one. And he signed up right there on the spot and went on the program. And the entire program that he had, the listeners were calling in about how they could get involved. So I'm encouraging the persons here this evening. The Adopt a Clinic program, I won't even go into the presentation. We have some information for you when you leave here, right? So with that said, how many persons here, just by a show of hands, are excited about Jamaica? Just by a show of hands. And just do this for me now. Cameraman, you see, I'm giving you a nice live shot, you know. All the friends back home, all right? We love you. It's cold up here tonight, but it's all right. And we thank our sponsors for the soup and rice and peas and chicken and thing. We're going to wrap up the thing quickly so you can get some more food. And I'm going to give as much time to our presenters. Mr. Mark Crosgrave, who came all the way from Jamaica, flew up, right? Let's give me a round of applause. Okay, yeah, man. We're not only looking to get funds from Jamaicans up here back to Jamaica, but part of our mandate is to be looking out for the interests of our nationals up here. So part of the presentation this evening will be on taxation, right? And the great Larry Mullins is here to give us that presentation. Jampro, of course, you know, I just give him a call. I'm up in the cold in New York. I say, of course, right away, sir. Vivian Scully. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I have to reinforce the partnerships. We have some major partners that are with us through thick and thin. Jamaica National, this lady here. I can't chat a little part, yeah. Cheryl, I soon finish. Me and her went to prep school together, right? Janice, right? What? Vast Prep, yes. Right? Suzette, I know her from the year of North, right? VMBS. Good? Grace Kennedy, we love you. Like cook food and tropical rhythms, right? And chips. Good, right? Jamaica National VMBS Grace, you know, and of course Digicel is here. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I invite you at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you at this time to give your Consul General a round of applause as he takes his seat. Thank you.
I don't know what we did to be so blessed, but we are certainly, definitely blessed to have Oliver Mayer as our Consul General. Like the Consul General alluded to, this event this evening would not have been possible without some really great partners. So I'm going to give each of them a minute or so to come and give some remarks on behalf of their individual companies. And I'm going to start off with the prep school lady, Miss Janice McIntosh from JN Bank.
Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. Mrs. Master of Ceremony or Mistress of Ceremony. Okay, my name is Janice McIntosh from Jamaica National, or JN Bank now. I just want to say that this is a really great forum, no matter how big or how small it is, because it's about Jamaica. And for us at Jamaica National, our job is to promote the best of Jamaica. And many of you would know that JN Bank, we were formed about 2 years ago, having been a building society, which is 145 years old. So we are like a starter bank, but we are very encouraged and excited to welcome investments to JN Bank, because as a fully fledged commercial bank, we have a full gamut of loan products as well as mortgage products. So I invite you to visit our table. I have my staff here, Lorna Murray. We give a wave, Lorna. She's outside. Winifred. And I just encourage you all to be a part of the JN Bank wagon, because we do have investments for you. And I encourage you to listen to what's been said today from all the persons who are here, from Jambro and all the other companies, that you can use JN Bank as a vehicle to investment in Jamaica. So thanks again.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh. And by the way, they do have a location right here in Miramar, so we thank them for that. Okay. The next person I want to welcome is one of my favorite people in the entire universe. She's stylish, she's funny, she's professional, she's just an awesome person. And she also is the head of the representative office for Victoria Mutual Building Society. Let me welcome Ms. Suzette Rochester Lloyd to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for that nice recommendation, accolade, Pat. Good evening, everyone, again. On behalf of Victoria Mutual Building Society, it's indeed my pleasure to share this day with you and to celebrate this beginning of Invest Now forum that the Consul General will host. And it is a worthwhile outreach, and Victoria Mutual is pleased to partner with this auspicious occasion, because we also share the same mandate in that we partner with communities to improve quality of life through our varied products and services, savings and mortgages. And as you know, it's an exciting time now in Jamaica. As my counterpart said, you know, we encourage you to listen to what is being said today and use my vehicle as well, Victoria Mutual brand, to invest in Jamaica. Our interest rates are an all-time low now at 4.25%. There are developments taking place in Jamaica through Gore developments. You have the Montego Bay, you have Phoenix Park, Through Richmond, you have the Crest, and these are such nice developments that are taking place. And as you know, that the highway now, it just plies less than an hour. You can commute between Kingston and the rest of the country, you know, so you can actually live and play outside of your locale. So I encourage you to take advantage of the information as is being shared today. Visit our website at victoriamutualgroup.com. Also visit our table on the outside to get additional information, because we are here to encourage you on your path towards financial independence. And we also know how important it is to have your emergency fund, your 6 to 8 months of emergency fund. And so we just want to encourage you. Today is an important day in our lives, and we want to work together to invest in our island home to achieve the 2030 vision of Jamaica as a place of choice to live, work, and raise your families by 2030. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Rochester Lloyd. Great to hear from you. From Grace Kennedy Western Union, let's welcome Novelle Kamak to give some remarks as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. So on behalf of Grace Kennedy Money Services and Western Union, we are honored to be here this afternoon. We are honored to be a part of the movement of making Jamaica better, building it, and create a whole new society, I guess I could say. We here at Grace Kennedy have always been an advocate to building and enhancing our lovely island. We all love Jamaica, and we just want to see it get better from here on, right? So Grace Kennedy has been in operation since 1922. It's proud to offer services to facilitate this building a new Jamaica, from our direct-to-bank services, where we allow you to send money directly to your bank account in Jamaica or your friends and family and loved one. And as a result, it helps to build the investment. Hey, send your money home, build your house, build your business, enhance Jamaica, make it better at the end of the day, right? That's the movement. And once again, I want to thank you all for having us here this afternoon, and enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned the word partnership before. This entire series is a partnership with not only you, not only our sponsors, but Jamaica USA Chamber of Commerce. We're working together hand in hand. And there's a lady who, from time to time, you will see her singing our folk songs, but on another occasion, she's leading the chamber. So I'm going to invite my good friend Marie Gill to come forward and say a few words at this time.
Thank you, Mr. CJ. Respectfully observing all protocols, I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, Jamaicans, friends of Jamaica, good evening. Good evening. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and our motto is partnership in commerce. So we're right on target with partnering with the consulate to host this important event. The Chamber is 15 years old this year, and there are some members of the board who are with me. I'd like for them to stand and be recognized. I'm not the only one that represents the Chamber, so please, board members, stand up. Joe, I know you're here. Catherine, Janice, yes. When some, give them a hand. Hi, Kay. Okay. I want to thank the board for their support over the years. It's been really rough, as those of you who are working with nonprofit organizations and chambers know, that it's very difficult to keep your day-to-day business going and keep the chamber going, but these folks have held on and contributed all that they can to keep the chamber. Now, Each member of the board of directors brings something very special to the chamber. And as a result, we are able to act as a resource for our business community, for members of the chamber, and in particular for Jamaican businesses. And let me just say on my part, I bring the U.S. Department of Commerce, its Minority Business Development Agencies programs that provides free technical assistance services to provide our members with access to capital, access to markets, and access to contracts. So if you're a member of the chamber, you have access to free technical assistance services to help you develop your investment packages for Jamaica and to help you partner with businesses in Jamaica that are looking to partner with you here, and just to help develop and grow your business throughout the United States and to other countries as well. So please feel free to call on us, JamaicaUSAChamber.org. Again, congratulations, Mr. CG, on this auspicious event, and we look forward to partnering with you for many years to come. Thank you so much.
Now, when I heard about this auspicious event, I love that word. I'm just saying, I love to come to these occasions so I just can say the word auspicious. I went under my mattress and put all of the money that I had buried under there, because I said, when I come here today, I'm going to hear we're in Jamaica, because my dream to invest in Jamaica is to open a little fry fish shop where we play domino and cook fish every day. And that's my dream. So I have that money ready. So I'm here today now to figure out exactly how am I going to execute that dream. And we have some gentlemen here this afternoon who are going to lead us in that direction and in that conversation. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them. Let me start introducing our panelists. I'll start off with the one I know best, Mr. Irie Mullings, who I've known for quite a number of years. And I'm happy to welcome him to the podium this afternoon to have this conversation with us on investing in Jamaica. He's a founding partner of Crichton Mullings and Associates since 2001. Mr. Mullings has over 30 years of experience in auditing and accounting, taxation, system designs and implementation, and business consulting. He previously has been with Price Waterhouse and has lectured in accounting at the Institute of Management and Production in Jamaica. He's a member of the American Institute of Certified Accountants and attended the London School of Accountancy, where he completed studies to become a member of the Chartered Association of Certified Accountants. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Mr. Irie Mullings to the podium to start off our panel discussion. The next, can I tell, well, you're going to have a seat, and I'm going to tell them that when I first met you, you're the first person that I knew that brought a product to Jamaicans all over South Florida that they desperately needed. Remember your days of the fish? I remember that day. Oh, breadfruit, right? Okay. Talk about knowing your consumer and the product that they need, right? Anyway, let me also welcome Mr. Mark Croskery. I hope I didn't massacre your name. I didn't, right? Anyway, Mr. Croskery is Chief Executive Officer of SSL Growth Equity Limited, the parent company of SSL that provides growth equity and finance for entrepreneurs and companies in Jamaica and the Caribbean. He specializes in providing growth equity investment advice and other services to companies and families in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. He's a member of Young Presidents Organization and received his MSc in Global Financial Analysis and a dual BSc in Corporate Finance Accounting from Bentley University in Boston, Massachusetts. Mr. Croskery. And as most of you here know, the investment arm of the Jamaican government is JAMPRO. And my next presenter, who is here, that I'm going to welcome is Mr. Vivian Scully. Now, I don't know if I should welcome him as Mr. Jam Pro, or I should mention these Jaggy Grave and the Brew and Raiding New Block for lingerie or anything like that. A fellow tailorite like myself, Mr. Vivian Scully from Jam Pro. So basically, these gentlemen are now here, and what we're going to be doing is giving each of them a chance to make a presentation. And I'm going to start off with Mr. Mullings, who will give a brief presentation, and then the other gentlemen will follow, and then after that we'll have a question and answer session. Mr. Mullings.
Thank you, Pat. And I like how you emphasize brief. All protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you, I feel a little bit like an undertaker. So we're having such a nice evening and you have to listen about taxes. Imagine that. But especially for those of us that live in the US, we know that it's inescapable. And I want to assure you that I'm on your side. I'm not on the side of the IRS. First thing I need to just make clear that whatever information I'm giving you this evening is for informational purposes only. I'm not giving tax advice. Normally, you have to write me a check for tax advice. And very importantly, as you know, I have to make it very clear that I'm not giving investment advice. I'm not licensed so to do. And it's a serious crime in the US, as you know. I think I speak on behalf of the whole panel in that regard. All right, so let me talk a little bit about it. I'm going to be brief, and I'll be here to answer any questions you have afterwards. There are other members of staff from Crichton Mullings here, so you'll be able to get any additional information. The first and very important thing that you need to know that a lot of people don't realize or recognize is that as a U.S. person, right, and by U.S. persons basically mean U.S. citizens and green card holders, you have to put on your tax returns your worldwide income. Very, very important. And it does not matter where you live, right? So if you live in Clarendon, or you live in Miramar, or you live in London, or you live in Toronto, or in Miami, you must report your worldwide income irrespective of where you are. And that's important because I wouldn't like to tell you the number of people who have come to me and have said to me that accountants have told them, no man, you live in Jamaica, you don't have to do any tax return here. Or no man, you don't have to report your Jamaican income here at all. Just report what you earn in the US. And as you probably know and have heard, the IRS has been on a program over the last 5 years to bring in offshore income. And so they've been emphasizing it. Various laws have been passed to try to force the reporting of foreign income. And so for those of you in the room who are in that position, make sure when you go to your tax preparer, your accountant, you bring that point to them, because some of them don't have the experience with overseas income and quite often give you wrong information. Of course, that won't happen at Crichton Mullings. So having said that, let's say, you work, as a lot of Jamaicans do, work in the Middle East, right? And they're US citizens, they're working in Saudi Arabia or Dubai or wherever. As you know, quite a few pilots, ex-Air Jamaica pilots, are in that position. And those are tax-free territories. They don't pay any income taxes at all. But those guys who are US citizen, that income is fully taxable in the US, and they have to report it. Luckily, one of the IRS rules allows somebody who has earned income, and earned income is income that you work for, not income that you make on bank deposits or anything. If you have earned income, you are allowed 108,000 of it tax-free. All right? So if you have income overseas, you're allowed 108,000 of it tax-free. You still have to report that income even although it's tax-free. Because if you don't report it and claim that income exclusion, the exclusion runs out, and down the road, the IRS can write you and say, you didn't file your tax return, so now you owe taxes on it. All right, so if any of you have friends or relatives who are U.S. persons, who are pilots over in the Middle East, make sure to let them know that. It's, you know, like a time bomb waiting to happen for them. There's also foreign tax credits, right? This is particularly relevant. Those, again, who have earnings in Jamaica or who live in Jamaica. If you pay taxes in Jamaica, so you're a U.S. person, resident or citizen, in Jamaica, chances are that income has been taxed already. You know, the income is typically taxed at 25% in Jamaica. So when you report that income in the U.S., you calculate your taxes in the U.S., you can get a credit for the taxes that you have paid in Jamaica. So a lot of people, you know, they come to us and ask, we want to make sure we don't pay taxes on the same income 2 times. You won't. And it's because, one, you have the foreign income exclusion of the 108,000, and you get a credit for any taxes that you have paid. In most territories, the U.S. has a double taxation treaty that provides the framework for this. So it's not as bad as it initially sounds. But you need to get proper tax advice, you need to file your returns, you need to claim the credits and the exclusions, and make sure that it doesn't become a problem down the road, right? I just want to point out, we said that U.S. persons have to pay taxes on their worldwide income. It's actually exactly the same in Jamaica, right? A Jamaican has to pay taxes on his worldwide income. The big difference is that for a U.S. person, it doesn't matter where you live. For a Jamaican to pay on the worldwide income, you have to be domiciled in Jamaica. All right? So this is important. There may be people here who are visiting from Jamaica thinking about investing here. So if you live in Jamaica, you make income in the U.S., that income is taxable in Jamaica, right? Needless to say, it's also taxable in the U.S. The reverse will apply when you do your Jamaican income tax return. Then you'll get a credit in Jamaica for the taxes that you've paid in the U.S. So, you know, as a lot of us get in this world where we're doing business on both sides of the Caribbean, a lot of us are increasingly in that position. This is important to understand, that there are tax credits that you can get which ensure you don't pay taxes on the same income twice. You know, Jamaica and the U.S. have a very strong double taxation agreement, and it covers, you know, a lot of elements of the business relationships. If you see a list on the monitor, the areas that are covered under the treaty, income taxes, interest, dividends. One of the things with dividends, the treaty says even although the tax rate in Jamaica is 25%, and as you know, if you're one of those people in this room who makes $1 million a year, then your tax rate is 31%. But guess what? Under the treaty, it says if you earn dividends in the other country, it cannot be taxed at more than 15%, all right, which is very significant. So you need to make sure if you're in that situation when you're talking to your accountant that, you know, you bring these things to his attention. Let's go back from it. Social security taxes, we get asked a lot of questions. You know, in Jamaica, we have our NIS and give people a little pension. Here we have social security taxes. And as you know, social security taxes is 15%. If you're in a job, you pay a half of it, the employer pays the other half. If you're self-employed, you gotta pay the full 15%. So again, if you live in Jamaica and you have earnings in Jamaica, self-employed earnings, when you do your tax return here, a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, you gotta pay the Social Security taxes. So we have many clients in our firm who earn no money at all in the U.S., but they have to pay their Social Security taxes here because they're self-employed. Most of them don't mind, of course, because when it comes to retirement time, it's a good thing to be getting some US dollars and some Medicare and all of that kind of thing. But you need to be aware of it so that, you can plan accordingly and organize, your financial affairs. I think I had mentioned already, I think my presentation is going way ahead of me. I had mentioned already that you can get tax credits. There are other credits that, as you know, you can get in the U.S., right? There's child tax credits that persons who are U.S. persons that live in Jamaica but file returns here are entitled to. Everybody knows the earned income credit. You cannot get the earned income credit if you're outside of the U.S., but you can get the child tax credit. So again, we have clients who earn their money in Jamaica. Sometimes they pay no taxes here, but they're entitled to the credit because, for instance, they have 2 young kids, and they do, in fact, get that refund. As you know, you get that credit up until a certain age. Equally, in Jamaica, there are certain credits, not so much on the personal side, but on the business side, that you can get in Jamaica as well. There are enterprise zone credits that you can get. There are credits for hiring persons that you can get. I think the Jampro rep will speak a little bit more about that. And again, it's important because if you're doing investments in Jamaica and you do it through a company, then it's important you're talking to accountants and so on in Jamaica that you can say to them, what credits am I entitled to? There is a huge tax saving that you can get in Jamaica. If you go to Jamaica, you set up a company and you list it on the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market, which you can do, right? Mark and I have worked on those situations. This is important. You can go to Jamaica, start your business, you can put it on the junior market, and the junior market is there for smaller people. So it is something that is entirely open to you. But the big tax incentive is that for the first 5 years of the company, you pay no income taxes at all. I mean, that's a very significant incentive. And for the next 5 years, you get a 50% reduction in income taxes. All right, so that's something if you're thinking about investments, because, Mark will be able to tell you, they're relatively small companies that have listed on the stock exchange. It's provided them with a source of capital that they have used to grow their business and become bigger companies. And whilst you experience this growth, you're getting a break from the income taxes. Significant break, because the income taxes in Jamaica is 25% for most companies. There's a category of companies, the banks and insurance companies and so on, that their tax rate is 33%, but for most companies it will be 25%. I heard CGs speak about the performance of the stock exchange. So it's something really for you to have on your agenda. There's lots of information available about it. So I certainly encourage people to check that out. And if you decide that you really want to get involved in it, I'm definitely in a position to help you. If you can put up the slide with the tax rates for me, tax rates. I just did a slide here so you can get a quick look at what tax rates in the US compared to Jamaica. Keep going. Right. This is just interesting for you. I remember we had, in December 2017, we had a new tax law. Some people call it the Trump tax law, but the correct name is the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And one of the things that happened in that law, that new law, was that company tax rates in the US fell from a maximum of 39.6% to a flat rate of 21%. That's an important piece of information to have. And you know, if you have a US company you want to talk about that, we can talk later. But the interesting point here is that the tax rate in Jamaica, as we said, is 25%. So the rate in Jamaica, slightly higher. There are some credits that you can get that can bring it below the 21%. Interestingly, in the UK, it's 19%. In Barbados, interesting case, just this year, everybody knows that Barbados is going through a pretty tough economic time. The IMF got involved there, and one of the things they have done is to completely reorganize their tax rates, and it is now at a flat 5%. So, you know, obviously there are incentives for doing things in Barbados and CARICOM, and, you know, Jamaica is part of CARICOM and so on. So again, if you're looking at, you know, investing in Jamaica and the Caribbean, you need to be aware of this and, you know, get some professional input. As you know, the Bahamas and Cayman, no income tax whatsoever. That's a whole different story that we can talk about. But, you know, that's, it's interesting information for you to know in terms of, you know, the different tax rates. All right, so that's a little bit about income tax. The other really important part of taxes and declarations and so on in the US is the fact that as a US person, there is a requirement that you disclose foreign bank accounts. So if you have a bank account outside of the US, it must be disclosed. There's a little threshold for it, and the threshold is you add up all bank accounts that you sign on. If that total is more than $10,000, and it doesn't matter if it's Jamaican dollars or Canadian or Cayman or pounds or whatever, you convert it to US dollars. If the total is 10,000 or more, you must disclose it. This is very important. Not disclosing it is a criminal offense, and the initial fines for not disclosing it is $10,000. Don't laugh, this is real stuff. If the IRS finds that you have a bank account overseas and it's more than $10,000 and you haven't disclosed it, the first fine you're going to get is $10,000. And so again, when you're talking to your tax preparer, this is something that you must be aware of. By the way, anybody familiar with the name Manafort? I never say Manayard, I say Manafort. And you might know that he got sentenced, I think, for 26 years today. 47 months? You sure? Remember, you got a second one. Yeah. This is exactly what he's going to prison for, because he had bank accounts, he hid money in Greece, he had bank accounts in Greece and never reported it on his forms with his tax returns here. That's exactly what he's going to prison for. No, I assume not too many of us in this room are at that level. But I wouldn't want to find out either. And the truth is that if you do the disclosure, there's no taxes that arises from the disclosure. You don't pay taxes as a result of having it. But the law requires you to disclose it. It's anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism financing regulations that requires that you disclose it. This is really important. And I encourage everybody in this room, for yourselves and for anybody you know. And what has happened is that the IRS has put in this legislation, and more they are implementing and enforcing the regulations. So more and more people are being penalized. And let me just emphasize that the law says once you sign on the bank account, so it doesn't matter if it's your money in the account. A lot of us, again, in this room, we sign on the bank account because of our parents ask us to do it. So in case me dead, you can get the money. That is something that you have to report. You just report it, file a return annually. The return is due along with your tax return, right? Equally, if you have what is titled foreign financial assets, which are basically investments, stocks and bonds, you have to declare them. If you own a company outside of the US, you have to declare it. Again, these are declarations. They don't generate taxes of their own, but you have to do that declaration. Obviously, if you have a company that is making a lot of money in Jamaica, and you do your disclosure as required, and the IRS looks at it and says, wait, what's happening to all of this money? And if you're getting dividends on it, obviously those dividends, if you're earning interest on a bond in Jamaica, you need to report the income on your income tax report here. If you have paid the taxes overseas, then you'll get a credit. But, the legislation exists to pull everything together, know what your financial affairs are, try and figure out who is laundering money and so on and so forth. I mean, I say to my clients all the time, if you're not cheating, you have nothing to worry about. Report what you've earned, claim your credits, get a good accountant to prepare your tax returns, and you can sleep and travel up and down and go through the airport. The airport, by the way, is a point of implementation in the tax system, and they can hold on to your passport at the airport if you're not tax compliant. No, it's not going to happen to most of us because there's a threshold. You have to have a debt of over 50,000 under the law. If you owe the IRS 50,000 or more, they can actually take away your passport at the airport. If you're a green card holder, one of the requirements of become a citizen, our lawyer friend here can tell you that. I know he's a big immigration lawyer. So when you're becoming a U.S. citizen, they speak to, one of the requirements being of good moral character. And they take the view, if you don't file your tax returns, you can hardly say you're of good moral character. And so you could conceivably, you can speak to Wayne more about it if you're in that situation. But you could conceivably not only not get your citizenship, but lose your green card for not filing your tax returns as a green card holder. All right, so, apart from the regular tax filings that you do April every year, there are some, pretty significant implications, again, especially for those of us doing business between here and the US and Jamaica or the Caribbean. You need to be aware of those. You need to get good tax advice, legal counsel where that is necessary. And, I always say to my clients, do not try to go this journey alone. Get professional help. Jamaica, with all of the good opportunities in Jamaica, and I have to tell you that I agree with the Consul General, there are genuinely good business opportunities, generally good business environment. And one of the great things is that, the current environment, I think, transcends the political parties, right? Very much driven by the relationship with the IMF. So I think, it's going to continue. And I can tell you from my own practice that lots of foreigners, lots of non-Jamaican foreigners are investing in Jamaica. Sometimes I'm traveling and I meet them in the airport and they tell me about how well they're doing. And I think I'm here to tell you that, it's available to you. Get good professional help, get good advice. As I think I mentioned, I'm a CPA, I'm a chartered accountant. I work for this fantastic firm, Crichton Mullins and Associates. And if you need professional service, I'm happy to provide them for you. And happy to take questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullings, for that very insightful and in-depth presentation on taxes. Now I know that I can get the Pat's Fried Fish Shop listed on the Junior Stock Exchange in Jamaica. And I'm going to invite Mr. Croskery now to come and give me the details on exactly how that is going to work. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Croskery.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. To the CG and everybody. Larry, that was very good. I think on the whole tax standpoint, if you do invest in the Jamaica stock market, there's no capital gains. I think it's such an incredible thing, I guess whether you're a Jamaican or you're anybody. Important, are there any Trinidadians here tonight? Or any Trinities at all, or just, it's all Jamaicans? Fantastic. Very good. Any Trinities, or one? One Bajan. All right, no problem. So, interesting point, and I'll tell you why I brought that up. So, actually, for the Jamaica Stock Exchange, if you're, a CARICOM company, it's not just if you're a Jamaican company, you can actually list, on our stock exchange back home, and we'll talk about that too. So, even if you have an American company, a US company, and Larry can tell you about that, if you interpose or put between, a US company, let's say a CARICOM company, whatever it is, as long as it's in CARICOM, you can list it on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Sounds a bit technical, but it's actually very simple. So there's lots of, miscommunication out there, about, listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange is a bit technical, it's a bit confusing. But again, once you have a good accountant, a good accounting firm like Crichton Mullins, a few others out there, you can actually, if you have assets here and so forth, you can actually use that and then, come to our Jamaica Stock Exchange. So we've had companies recently list, maybe not their ordinary shares, but their preference shares like Cable Bahamas. So we've had Bahamian companies come and take advantage of the market. We've had St. Lucia companies come, like Portland Private Equity or Portland JSX to be more specific. So it's actually something that's happening. And as you travel the Caribbean and go to Barbados, you go to Trinidad, there are venture capital or there are investors in the Caribbean who are saying Jamaica is the best thing, especially over the last 5 years, even more so now, and actually everybody is looking at Jamaica. So the good news today, everybody's been online, you've seen all the parliament announcements, the budget announcements already. Transfer tax, 2%, no longer 5%, so real estate prices should go up more. We're more of a stock broker, but we'll talk about that. So that's good news. Minimum business tax, no more April 1st. So if you had a company in Jamaica and you actually for whatever reason got in some trouble, or maybe one of your directors resigned and you put things on hold, every year, boom, 30,000 Jamaican or so. You had to pay it regardless. No more minimum business tax. And there's a ton of other things, stamp duties in some cases removed. So lots of taxes, hopefully growth initiatives. I'm sure some of the multilaterals, gave us some advice, had us some pressure. But overall, lots of positive announcements today in Jamaica. So very exciting. We should be growing some more, and that's good news. And we're going to talk about some of those things tonight as well. So it should be good. So when you think about Jamaica, and to kick us off, there was a company actually in the US 10, 15 years ago. It had a market cap, or when you look at the valuation overall, below 20 billion US. Nobody wanted to work there. Very hard to find employees. Essentially, the CEO, they thought the CEO was probably crazy, or the owner of the business. And then, there's a company that was probably worth more than 400 billion US, and it was like a traditional company. Everybody wanted to work there. They were safe. The CEO was fantastic. You know, they had a big board of directors. You know, that's where your parents said to you, you got to go work at that company. You know, this is the greatest company to go work for. Whether you're a Jamaican, you are from the Caribbean, anywhere. You know, you flash forwarded, and you know, it's a topic they discuss at conferences, and basically things change. You know, flash forward now till today, and the company back then that was a safe one now is essentially, you know, in problems. They're having to sell their assets. Maybe they had the wrong vision. Their market cap is way below 50 billion US. Nobody wants to work there anymore. You know, you come to presentations like this, and you're seeing 50 slides. The guy is in a suit and a tie. It's a bit of a boring presentation. And the company that no one wanted to work for, you know, 10, 15 years ago is now, you know, one of the most valuable companies in the world. Everybody wants to work there, etc. And, you know, that's the story of Apple. You know, we all have our, you know, Apple phones, and the story of General Electric. So when you think about us as Jamaicans, that's the story of Trinidad and Jamaica. So I'm happy there's no Trinis here tonight, right? So 10, 15 years ago, everything was about Trinidad and the Caribbean. You know, even as I traveled the Caribbean, everything was about Trinidad. You know, the other day we had a venture capital conference in Trinidad, and everything now, I can tell you, is about Jamaica. Everything now. So feel great about us. You know, it's fantastic. I mean, let's keep it that way. But right now, everybody wants to invest in Jamaica. Everybody wants to go to Jamaica. I mean, I think when you look at the numbers, the other day we were with a CEO of a public company. They're a food company in Jamaica, Seprod, and they said they no longer look at us as 3 million people. They actually say we're 10 million people because, you know, we get 3 million living in Jamaica, but there's 6.5 million tourists, right? Whether it's cruise ships or, you know, flights. So actually, it's interesting. You know, Jamaica is just on the move. It's exciting times. You know, the budget again today, and so essentially, you know, all the Caribbeans coming in, whether it's for our stock market, you know, products and so forth. And so definitely in tonight's, you know, discussion and presentation, it's really about encouraging, I think, everybody here. I think Larry said it best, like our compliance officer tonight. Not here to give investment advice. I'm not licensed in the US either. We don't have an office here. Hopefully one day we will. But essentially, so no solicitation, but I'll be here all evening if you want to talk. We always hear about the Jamaica diaspora, so if anybody wants to take us for a drink or dinner after, we're more than welcome, and so forth. So, you know, to talk about and everything, you know, our firm is SSL Growth Equity, but we started off really as SSL, you know, in Kingston, Jamaica. And essentially, we started there, financial planning, financial literacy, but we're now a private equity group in the Caribbean, Jamaica, you know, really trying to help SMEs especially. And what we really try to do is provide capital to everybody, to lots of companies. We see opportunities up here as well as in the Caribbean. And, you know, everybody has seen where the stock exchange now in Jamaica, you know, 5 years running. Jamaica is all over Bloomberg. The Prime Minister has been on Bloomberg a couple of times. So, you know, Jamaica is very hot, not just a brand, but actually the financial markets. So it's becoming a little bit passé, but you hear everybody now saying, you know, on social media and everything, Jamaica is not just about the sand and, you know, the sun and the sea, but we actually now have real businesses. There's over 100 companies listed on the stock exchange. We just hit 40 securities on our junior market. You know, we have pharmacies, we now have, you know, manufacturing companies, distribution companies. We had a recently listed creative company, you know, iCreate. So there's tons of stuff happening. I think another announcement in Parliament today was the Development Bank of Jamaica will start to finance factoring. So if, you know, if you have an invoice and it's a legitimate invoice, they'll start to give financing on that, and, you know, the commercial banks will hopefully buy that. So there's a lot of change that's still coming and a lot of positive announcements. This is just a standard disclaimer, as Larry said. And, you know, the high-level statistics, but the big statistics and the main things, and, you know, Mr. Mayor was talking about it, is highest NIR, you know, probably since independence or in the history, you know, 3 billion US or more. So it's a big number. It keeps Jamaica safe. We have a flexible exchange rate. The flexible exchange rate is really good. I think it's supported by a lot of the multilaterals. It is driving definitely a few businessmen or businesses back home a bit crazy. because, you know, if the dollar now is 123, 128, and you know, it's going to be 139 or it's 123, it's good in the sense that we can't speculate anymore, but it can be a bit tough to plan for your business. But the good news is that it's really driven out the speculators, which was always probably a problem, you know, out of the market overall. The big thing up here, though, is the interest rates. So Jamaica interest rates are less than US interest rates. Sounds a bit crazy. You know, sounds like you've gone and, you know, drank rum all night, and you're saying, how can Jamaica, little Jamaica, have interest rates? And this is before withholding tax. So you got to take 25% off of the 1.75%. But essentially, this is what is really changing the landscape, because there is nothing you can do with your money back home. Literally nothing. So if you think about it, whether you're a bank, you're an investor, you're a high net worth investor, even if you're a teacher, you're a nurse, anybody, what's changing now is the stock exchange struggled for over 10 years, folks. Over 10 years, 20 years. We had 100,000 accounts at the stock exchange. It's called the JCSD, Jamaica Central Securities Depository. We could not move the number of investors in Jamaica for probably over 20 years. In the last 5 years, we now have 222,000 accounts. That's more than double, mainly through the junior stock market. So with all these companies coming on, Fontana Pharmacy, you know, as you know, we love brands, right? I mean, the company needs to be good, but we love brands. We like to buy what we know, you know, things we know. I mean, everybody knows Grace Kennedy, but, you know, there is time for new things, right? So Fontana comes to the market with Cinco, all these companies, you know, they have staff compliments, you have friends. You go to church, you tell your friends to buy these things too. So the credit union movement, which is very strong, what's happening is funds have also been leaving credit unions and coming to the stock market now. The interest rate, if there's nothing you can do with your money now. Real estate, everybody can't afford real estate, as we know. You can't afford 10 million Jamaican, 15 million Jamaican, 20 million Jamaican. So you're buying stocks now. So Jamaica is becoming very like where we are today. North America. So Jamaica, as I say, we're catching up, our financial markets are evolving, and if we continue this trend and interest rates stay low in Jamaica, folks, is maybe we'll have 500,000 investors, maybe we'll have, they say the investable population in Jamaica is about 1.1 million. So we still have not even tapped the potential of investors or financial literacy in Jamaica. We're probably only 15% of actually investable population. So look at the upside right now. In terms of overall population, that's only 6% of Jamaicans investing in terms of in Jamaica. So it's huge potential. I mean, big progress, but huge potential. Unemployment rate, Mr. Mayor spoke to it, you know, 8.2, 8.3%. You know, highly speculative, but again, you know, the call centers are growing. You know, lots of, you know, foreign direct investment has been coming in. So, you know, I guess a lot of the jobs are low paying. A job is a job at the end of the day. So this is driving credit. It is driving, you know, more credit cards. It is driving more credit overall. Again, what does that sound like? America. So again, you know, the land of credit is where we are today. And again, the Caribbean is catching on. As long as there's jobs, low interest rates, you continue to see a change. Everybody can access credit now much more than before back home. Okay, well. So let's talk about huge brands and what's happening. So everybody knows lots of airlift. The airlift is increasing at an all-time high into Jamaica. Montego Bay Airport, huge amount, right? So when you think about huge Jamaica brands and what they're doing is sandals. We all know sandals. Chukka. Chukka is the largest attraction company in the whole Caribbean now, not just Jamaica. Okay, so you have iconic brands that are being built, and US investors, Canadian investors are coming down to look at our brands, whether they're Jamaican brands, Caribbean brands. But as usual as Jamaicans, we don't value what we make. We will always make some foreigner come down and come and look at them. So I think what tonight is about is also encouraging, you know, come back home, invest in what you know. There is an avenue where you can invest in what you want. So Grace Kennedy, not growing as fast as some of the other things, but we all know Grace. You know, Grace was out there this evening. We saw the Jamaica Producers products as well, the breadfruit chips, you know, cassava chips and so forth. But what's fantastic is we have iconic brands. Now, 2 of those up there are not public at this stage. You know, they're private companies, but it's just a demonstration to show you that we got fantastic brands that are attracting huge overseas capital, you know, throughout the world, and again, in our, you know, small island. So it's just to show you a kind of a chart of what's happening. This is on Bloomberg. Bloomberg hasn't kind of picked up the stock split, and we can go into that at the front of the chart. But this is a Jamaica Stock Exchange, and it kind of comes back to the Apple General Electric example I wanted to give you. So our portfolio company, SSL, we took the Jamaica Stock Exchange public. And again, it sounds like an oxymoron. When we took the Jamaica Stock Exchange public, how many brokers do you think bid to take the stock exchange public? There's 13 brokers in Jamaica. Anybody want to take a guess how many brokers bid? Roughly 7 years ago. Nobody except us. So you see how Jamaica changes so fast, right? Or the Caribbean. So basically, when we decided to take it public, you can see it's difficult to see the chart. It's a 1,400% return or more over 6-7 years. Incredible. You know, you can do the math yourself. If you put in that type of capital, the type of return that you'd have gotten, you know, over that period of time. And it's still going higher. It's actually at even higher. It hit a high today, $18 per share. And this just shows you in the last year. So this is just the last year chart of how much and how well it's done. Record revenues, doing very well, and so forth. In terms of NCB, we still love NCB. We think NCB is still going to go maybe another 30-40% higher, right? They're buying out Trinidadians or Trinidad's company Guardian, but look at how NCB's gone. In terms of just quick notes in terms of, you know, foreign direct investment and where it's going, I mean, these are some of the sectors that we love. I mean, you got to have sometimes a lot of capital to get into them, but, you know, tourism, like what we said about Chukka Sandals, you know, construction, NHT tells you there's tens of thousands of homes that are still needed back home. There's only 5 main developers in the whole country, right? Gore Homes, I heard they mentioned earlier, Chemtech, Selective, and then about 2 others. There's tons of demand. And then business process outsourcing, but, you know, let's see what happens with artificial intelligence. And then just, you know, big encouragement for tonight is, listen, get your piece of the rock. We know it might not be easy because you do need a TRN number, things of this nature, and so forth. But I'm really encouraging you. You know, we've gone around and done meetings similar to this, but smaller and other meetings. But really follow up, get your piece of the rock. The FX has stabilized. The brand Jamaica is hot, and it's just about monetizing it. So just ways you can invest quickly. You can invest in the Jamaica Stock Exchange itself, as we mentioned. You know, all of it's online, jamstockx.com. We actually have a venture capital company. We invest in the average person, you know, some, you know, great guys from Westmoreland, Hanover, all over the country. You can, you know, buy into our stock as well. And in real estate, but it has to be much bigger ticket sizes, unfortunately. So there's ways you can invest in and get into, you know, our people, Jamaicans, and so forth, and participate in the upside that Jamaica has, you know, right now. And I know we'll take the questions after, and then I'll be around all evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crosby. And in the interest of time, I won't say anything more about Scully that I was planning to say. I'll just welcome him to tell us exactly from, you know, the business arm of the government, how are we going to implement all of these different projects and so on. So, Mr. Vivian Scully.
I brought a video because, you know, these guys did such an excellent job. I was just going to play the video, but anyway, give them a round of applause.
Think you know Jamaica? Let's talk about Jamaica. Let's talk business.
Office Depot is actually a good place to I spend lots of money there.
Think you know Jamaica? Let's talk about Jamaica. Let's talk business. Let's talk opportunity.
All right, let's skip the video. We can get to that at the end. All right, good afternoon, everyone, or good night. As I was saying, these guys did such an excellent job presenting around Jamaica. Seems to be not much else I can add, but I'm going to share with you a couple of the developments that are taking place. We all are ambassadors for the country, and so as much as possible, even if we're not investing ourselves, it helps that everyone knows what's happening in and around Jamaica. Now, as they said, there's no time like the present, and it's actually the best time to invest in Jamaica right now. Before coming here, I listened to a video online with Michael Leachin doing an interview, and he recounted, I believe in 2007, he received an award in New York City, in Harlem, at the Abyssinian Church. And at the time, the church was sharing with him that all the development that's happening in Harlem was very little. In fact, they had built the only school in Harlem for the last 20 years, the Abyssinian Church. And while he was there, they talked about all what was happening in Harlem. And we all know about Harlem. It's like a booming part of New York City now. And he reflected on it and thought, but hey, this is the same thing that's happening in Jamaica. The government is investing strongly in Jamaica. They're fixing infrastructure, creating, revolutionizing. You all see the tagline, New Jamaica. Anybody who visited recently, you'd see all the construction and infrastructure that's going on. It's almost difficult to move through Kingston. But what's happening is that Jamaica is now hot, and foreign investors are buying up property and assets in Jamaica. And soon, us Jamaicans, if you don't do it now, we're going to be just like the people in Harlem who never invested and have to be moving out of Harlem because of what they call gentrification. And so all those properties have quadrupled in price. And the same thing is, we can see it happening in Jamaica. So, without much ado, I'm going to just walk you quickly through. I represent JAMPRO, and JAMPRO is the country's economic development agency. I must say we've been doing a good job because our goal is really to promote export and investment, and just seeing what's happening in the economy and the amount of FDI that's coming in, we know the work that we're putting in is definitely paying off. It wasn't too difficult for me to fly down here because when the CG said, come on down, we're having an investment talk, the winter up there is so harsh, I say, I have to go to Florida. But actually what drives us in JAMPRO is just talking about investment and rebuilding the country through foreign direct investment, whether diaspora or otherwise. So the key sectors that we focus on are around tourism, business process outsourcing, logistics, agribusiness, and energy and mining. I'm just going to share with you some of what's happening in those sectors as well. So in Jamaica, we've started a program of making the country more competitive around starting a business, how easy it is to open a business. You can do so in like 48 hours. Once you file your documents, you can have a company open the next day. Tax reform is happening. Tax has gone down, and you heard some of the new announcements today. They're continuing to cut more taxes around doing business in Jamaica. Port efficiency. We've had significant investments in the port by divesting some of the assets there and to CMA CGM, which is the third largest shipping company in the world. They are dredging the port, getting it ready for the larger Panamax ships that are going to be coming through from the Panama Canal. Because, like any business, location, and Jamaica is an excellent location for both air and sea cargo for moving products across the world. Recently, an award that we got. Jamaica is the #1 place to do business. Where? In the Caribbean. And we're actually #3 in all of Latin America. We're focusing on infrastructure, air, sea, and road. The airport was just divested, and the intent there is to increase passenger load. We're currently at about 1.7 million persons annually passing through Kingston. After this improvement to the airport, we're looking to take that number up to 4 million persons per year. Just about the size of Montego Bay. Not many people know, but Montego Bay is about twice the traffic of Kingston. So the message here is that Jamaica is open for business. We're ranked the 5th best place in the world to start a business in terms of speed at the moment. So we've rejigged a number of things. Instead of going 3 places to get TRN, NIS, NHT, and register your business, you can do it all in one place, and it happens in just 48 hours. It's a hot spot for startups. Yep. But you know, startups like to be nimble. They want to, quickly get things done. So Jamaica is rated as a place to startup incubators. Great for time and costs as well, and the ease of doing business in the largest city. Kingston, of course, is our largest city, and the ease of doing business in Kingston has significantly improved our ratings. You've heard it before on the stock exchange, the home of the best performing stock market in the world. Close to 233% growth in 5 years. So if you had, $10,000 there, it would be close to $30,000 in 5 years if you had invested in the stock market there. And interestingly, it's going to grow a lot more. So the time to get in is now. The Jamaican stock market, even though it's growing so fast, and these guys know the in and out of it, it's still a very small stock market. The capitalization, I believe, is equivalent to Chipotle. You all know Chipotle, that's here, right? So the full capitalization of our market is no bigger than one of those small companies. So just imagine with all this news and media around it, the amount of money that's going to be pouring into it, it's going to just keep growing. So what we tell our investors about the business climate, it's liberal, welcoming, open and transparent investment regime. It's not like some countries where it's difficult, you have to have all different kind of partners, local partners, overseas partners. Anyone can open a business in Jamaica, except for one sector, which we're still, creeping there, and it's, I'll tell you about it later on. The range of market access in terms of agreements, we have dual taxation treaties with a number of countries, as our tax colleague here explained to you. So if you're paying tax in Jamaica, you'd have to pay it back in the US, Canada, UK, same thing. No restriction around repatriation of profits. You can move money in and out of Jamaica. And most times US dollars are now available versus 20, 30 years ago. Zero restriction on foreign ownership, and the list goes on. The other good thing about Jamaica is our location and the trade agreements that we have that give us access to much larger markets. So just paralleling that on the discussion earlier, our population is about 2.5 million. We get another 4 million tourists coming in, and we have another 6 million Jamaicans living overseas. The market for Jamaican products is just booming. And we have offices in Toronto and New York and UK, and I can tell you, we get the calls every day. The distributors cannot get enough Jamaican produce to supply the demand in the markets. So that's a huge investment opportunity, especially in agribusiness in Jamaica. Our #1 area, of course, paralleling, and Western Union would like to hear this as well, is wire transfers. Money transfers into Jamaica is about $2 billion a year. So the diaspora's contribution is just as important to us as tourism, even though we talk a lot about tourism. 4.2 million visitors last year. We're looking at about 10,000 hotel rooms over the next 5 years to be built. This is a recent property that just opened in Jamaica. 120 hotel room with spas along the Doctor's Cave Strip, if you know Montego Bay. And this is just one of the many hotels that are being built in the country. Tourism, tremendous brand equity around that. The Jamaican brand is just top of mind everywhere you go, and that's what's fueling the growth in terms of visitors to the island. Around the food, the music, the sports, everybody just loves our culture, not to mention how we speak. We're the number 3 in terms of islands in the world for tourism, and 12 in the top, and we hold the number 12 position in the top 25 destinations in the world. So all the major brands are there. Well, not all, but most of them. If you visited Kingston recently, you see some new construction going on. Marriott built a hotel 2 years ago, and they're building a second one in New Kingston, which is a luxury property called the AC Marriott. So that will be opening later this year as well. One destination, multiple experience. I've said to persons in audiences, our cities are like brands. Not just Jamaica is the brand, but we have Ocho Rios, Dunn's River, Negril. You see food products throughout the entire United States named after towns and cities in Jamaica. That speaks to the depth of the country as an investment property. BPO, business process outsourcing, huge source of jobs for the country. 5 years ago, we had about 12,000, 10,000 persons working in the sector. Today, we have close to 30,000, 3 times the amount 5 years later. People say it's low-paying jobs, but it's money coming in and it's fueling commerce in the country. Why is it so strong? Jamaica is the 3rd largest English-speaking country in the Western Hemisphere, outside of the United States and Canada. We're little, but we're very solid out there. And so a number of companies have set up their offshore centers to service North America from Jamaica. It's an easy flight over. In 3 hours they're there versus traveling 30 hours to go to India and the Philippines. All those are brands that you're seeing of companies who have set up over the last 5 years in Jamaica. And obviously more are coming. And these are some of the brands, the companies in North America that they service. Target, Amazon, Petco. This is just a sampling. Jamaica is ideally suited for renewable energy, wind and solar. You walk along the beach, you get blown away. You walk on the street, so you get burnt up in sun. It's just ideal for solar energy. The islands are bathed with wind and sun for renewables. And of course, we're still depending on expensive oil and LNG to power our homes and businesses. That costs us about 20 cents per kilowatt. Renewables, we're looking at taking that down to 8 cents over the next couple of years. This is an example of one of the largest solar farms that are in Jamaica, just to give you a sampling there. Wington Wind Farm is another renewable energy source, and Mark will tell you this is going public soon. If you have any disposable cash to park away, you can put it in this on the stock exchange when it goes live later this year. Jamaican young entrepreneur starting one of the largest solar farms in Jamaica. It's going to be commissioned this year as well. So a lot of activity happening in that space. We touched about the air and sea, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but Jamaica is an ideal logistics destination if you're into moving products and cargo. And we're investing heavily in the port to facilitate business there. That's a snapshot of the developments that's happening. All right, so across all sectors, there are lots of positives happening. And for you to seek an investment area, you look for your strength. Any area that you have a strong knowledge of, see how you can duplicate that in Jamaica. Last one I'm going to touch on is cannabis. And this is an area where if you are looking at a cannabis operation in Jamaica, it has to be 51% owned by Jamaican and 49% by foreign investors. Now, foreign investors are pouring in the country in the cannabis sectors. Canada has just legalized cannabis for recreational use, and all the top companies and the world's largest cannabis companies are making partnerships in Jamaica. So those who have land, you can forward some kind of partnership to grow cannabis for and with companies overseas. And that's a huge opportunity that's going to grow as well. All right, so the takeaway, Jamaica is stable, investment-friendly democracy. Macroeconomics are sound, or debt to GDP is traveling south. The government is taking deliberate plan and action to grow the economy. The businesses are being transformed and opportunities abound. So the key thing is let's do business in Jamaica now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scully, and I may have to revisit the rum shop thing. I may have to open up our rum and cannabis. But anyway, investment. That's what I'm talking about. And it's no coincidence. He was listed in my program earlier, but I wanted to hear what these gentlemen had to say, because the next person I'm going to invite to the podium to give us just a 1-minute synopsis of what happened, or what his takeaway from, because he's representing us here, is of course Mr. Wayne Golding, a man that I've never seen in public without him wearing purple. He is of course the diaspora representative. So Mr. Wayne Golding, give us your...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed. You know, when the CG came up with this idea to put this together, it was the realization that our folks who are living in the diaspora are really missing a great deal of opportunity that's on the ground in Jamaica. If you travel to Jamaica or you are at the airport here and you see the type of people who are traveling to our country to invest, you will understand that we are sorely lacking the information that these gentlemen have presented tonight. A lot of you I know are amazed. Believe it or not, most of these things are actually available at your fingertips online. You can really learn about what's happening on the ground in Jamaica. Now, as a member of the Jamaica Diaspora Advisory Board here in the US, we recognized a couple of years ago that the diaspora to Jamaica should be more than just about barrels and remittances. And so we took the deliberate approach of advising our minister, who is the Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, that we need to have a more formalized process of engaging our Jamaicans wherever we are in the diaspora, whether it's the United Kingdom, whether it's Canada, whether it's here in the United States. So we steered away from the collegiate things that people were doing in the past, you know, blood pressure machine, health, education, stuff like that. Those are necessary things. But we realized for the growth of Jamaica, the diasporans were a crucial element in the growth, but we needed to connect them in a more formalistic way. So I can tell you that this did not happen overnight. This happened through many phone calls, many consultations, in terms of presenting us as a people who are truly interested in Jamaica. We are patriotic, but we also mean business. We are moving beyond the time where you're just going to do things just because you're from Jamaica. It has to make good business sense. So that is a manifestation you're seeing here tonight. And I do hope that you will take this information back to your own communities, because that's one of the things we tend not to do. We tend not to share enough information, or we tend not to search in the places that information is available. I can tell you, if the Reggae Boys came to play here, we'd have a packed room. If we had a concert here, I know everybody's going home for the Buju concert, right? It's a level of interest that people show in things that sometimes are not as important as it should be. I commend you for coming out here tonight, because oftentimes I tell my diasporans I meet all over the 13 states here in the southern United States, it's not the number of people in the room, but it's the quality of those people in the room. And I think you all represent that quality of leadership and innovation we need. As you look around the diaspora, you'll see the many achievements that are happening right in front of our eyes, from one of our own diasporans running for President of the United States to other people in our local communities also trying to affect policies where we live in the diaspora. So I want to congratulate the Consul General for taking this bold step. And the question that I've gotten from my region is, who's next? And we know this is something that's going to be moving right across the region, because we are all one in terms of one voice, one love. We love Jamaica, but we first have to secure ourselves here so that in turn we can contribute to the growth and development of our great nation of Jamaica. And we applaud those people who are on the ground in Jamaica, as you can see, with all the expertise that they possess. Sometimes I tell people often here that some of our greatest fear in the diaspora is that we can't compete if we go back to Jamaica because of all the great things that some of the people on the ground are doing there. But the opportunity is there. The door is wide open. The diaspora is a central topic in Jamaica. Any policy coming out of Jamaica, we have a role to play. There's going to be a national diaspora policy that's coming out. We have been contributing to that conversation on how Jamaica deals with its diaspora formally moving forward. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out and for supporting this event, because as Larry said, you know, there are rules and best practices, but if you don't know them, then you'll keep thinking about Jamaica as what we say an under tree type of operation. It is so much further than that. We definitely are on the map. Other people are recognizing it. So if we don't recognize it, we are going to lose out in the end, and Jamaica is going to become a foreign place to us. So please take your time, look and see how you can put your footprint back on the ground in Jamaica and be a part of the growth. Thank you all very much for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. That was a KC minute. Anyway, the floor is now open for questions. So our panelists are here. Does anybody want to get any more information on anything that they've discussed so far? There's a gentleman in the back.
Hey, good evening, guys. I have a question as it relates to the economic growth in Jamaica. Is there a concern that we might be growing too fast, or are there any controls in place that would make sure that our growth is in a controlled manner, per se?
Good question. When you're considering that we have had negative growth for the last, 20 plus years, any growth is good growth. But I'd have to say it's controlled. What was formed was an economic growth council, and a target was set of 5% in 4 years. We've gone through about half of that time now, and our growth rate is just over 2%. And as the chairman would say, the best is yet to come in the latter half. Because as you start to grow, then it's expected that we'll accelerate in the last half.
Any other questions? Janice?
Yes, this is for Irie. You didn't, I know you mentioned or alluded to some of the tax controls that they have in place, but you didn't mention specifically FATCA. I did hear a threshold of 108,000, I heard 10,000, but I know the FATCA would have been 50,000. Can you speak to that one at all?
So Janice, it's two different things. The 108,000 is the tax-free amount you get as a U.S. person living and having earned income outside of the U.S. And it's always good to just think about people in Cayman or Saudi Arabia or something like that. And there are, quite a few Jamaican U.S. persons who are in that situation. So again, 108,000, you can claim an exclusion from it on your income taxes when you do it here in the States, and it's tax-free. As far as the threshold for FATCA reporting, right, as I indicated, if you have financial assets, stocks and bonds primarily outside of the U.S., and again, this is real stuff. A lot of us, having varying quantities investments back in Jamaica, right? The threshold, Janice, is different depending upon your filing status in the States, right? So whether it's single, head of household, married filing, jointly married filing, separate, and it starts at 50,000 depending on whether you live outside. Because remember, if you live outside as a U.S. person, you still have to file here. All right, so you got to disclose if you have 50,000, right? Married filing jointly, that threshold is 250,000. So if you have more than 250,000 married filing jointly, you got to disclose here. And for a single individual, you have to disclose over 50,000. All right?
Okay, anybody else with a question before we wrap up?
Yeah, twofold question. Very easy to answer, I'm sure. One of the concerns that most Jamaicans are expressing is how China's interaction with Jamaica in terms of the highways and all that. I don't know if anybody can give any kind of clarity to what kind of control is being put on how China grows in Jamaica, because it's known that China is having serious access to Africa and India and other places, and their foothold and footprint is pretty great and uncontrolled. So in Jamaica, such a small place, that's something that concerns us. Second thing is, I think the gentleman that represents SSL might be able to give me some clarity on that. I'm developing a family-owned property that's been pretty much ignored by the rest of the family, and I've been financing that pretty much out of pocket. I have some big ideas, but I'm not sure if that's something that, if I'm big enough to be worth your while, and maybe that's something I need to talk to you about.
Oh, there's one. Oh, there was one here. I didn't see it.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a good question because it comes up all the time because China is playing such an active role in our infrastructure development. And I don't speak from the government side, even though I represent the government, but as I said to a colleague, we've learned so much about, countries have learned so much about the China experience in Africa that obviously we are very mindful of it in our negotiations. The other flip side to that is a number of the activity that you're seeing in Jamaica with Chinese companies are actually investments by the Chinese. In fact, our road network, the North-South Highway, is one of the largest Chinese projects that they have invested in actually outside of the country by one of their engineering firms. So I think, we need FDI. China is obviously a source of FDI, and we're open to investment from whichever country there is.
And just one quick point with that, the total debt for China is 2%. 2% of our total debt is out to China. So it's very small in the scale of things. So it may appear that it's large, but it's just 2%.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do specialize mostly in, the stock market, operating companies, but definitely we do consulting as well, family planning, estate planning. So, but definitely if it's a personal thing, we could discuss it after. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be very quick. Investment and stock market and all of that is new, basically to the basic Jamaican. It's not something that has been a part of our, general. So my question is anything going to be left by the time the Jamaican public actually wake up? Is there anything that's going to be left for the Jamaican, or is everything going to be divested? So, is there any protection? Are there some things that just will not be foreign owned? I noticed with the marijuana that it's 51.49. Is there anything else? And it's, any major value that we have that is going to be maintained for as a Jamaican or for Jamaicans?
Yeah. No, so it's a great point. I mean, the thing about the capital markets and the stock markets is they're free markets, right? So, anybody can come and, buy a stock on the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange. So once the Jamaica Stock Exchange, it used to be viewed as a utility, in the 70s and, the 80s, but we also demutualized it, and then we took it public, as was in the presentation, right? So, as it moves more and more towards capitalism, like what we're seeing, I think to your point, what is happening in Jamaica and the Caribbean is, Appleton Rum, which I guess we all love, is now owned by Campari, which is an Italian company. So, DNG, which is Red Stripe, is owned by Heineken, right? Berger Paint, which, we're all paint our house with Berger, Sherwin-Williams. Berger is owned by a Trinidadian company. So the thing is I think you have to observe that there's a trend happening in Jamaica. And so to your point, you have to say to yourself, if all of whether it's a North American company, a European company, a Caribbean company comes and buys out all these assets, and all of our well-known assets are owned by large foreign companies who see them as being profitable, the good news is if the JSA accounts have gone from 100,000 to 222,000, and I can tell you for sure, teachers, nurses, civil servants, everybody are putting money into the stock market, even if it's 10,000 Jamaican, 100,000 Jamaican, they are getting involved. It's still not enough, but definitely, without question, if Jamaicans themselves just keep the money offshore, even the traditional wealthy, and don't start putting it back home and investing in it, there will definitely, like what you're saying, not just the average Jamaican, most of probably the companies will be owned by, large multinationals and other companies. That trend has been happening since 2003. That is correct. Yeah, I saw that. I think it's not a newspaper, but I think it's a GIS paper. I guess it needs to be more information out there, more communication. To your point, but it's like this series. It's a good investment. It's a good time to invest. It's good to take your own stake. And
if I can just add something briefly, about 200,000 Jamaicans, based on this number, invest in the stock exchange. And there are about 400,000 Jamaicans through pension funds that are also, pension funds invest in the stock market as well. So, we're looking at over 500,000 Jamaicans who are investing in these companies. But we actually need more, hence, purpose of this series.
I know they want to wrap up, but one quick thing is, Wigton, which, Mrs. Scully had up, one thing the government is doing actually with the RFPs, I think it's any state asset that they're divesting that is of that size and stuff, it has to have a big take-up from locals or from Jamaicans, to your point. So things like Wigton, There was an article recent about JPS shares, anything like that. So there is a move towards that through the brokerage community. It has to have a big take-up, you know, with Jamaicans, yes. And that's a big shift.
Good evening. First of all, thank you guys for putting on this event. Really, it is encouraging to know that all of this is going on as a Jamaican living here. My biggest question is, and I know I may get some bad eyes for this, but our generation looks up to what was there prior. And we saw all the mistakes and lack of knowledge was passed out to us. What is being done for us, this generation that's in the States and in the diaspora, to make us more aware of what's going on in the country, for us to want to get back involved in the country and go back and invest?
Ladies and gentlemen, they have saved the hardest question for last. Let me say this quickly. Without question, one of the major focuses that we have is to ensure that we engage young people. And 10 o'clock tomorrow, we're actually starting a young group, diaspora group. It's a start. Clearly, there can be far more work in that area, but we are concerned that us as first generation Jamaicans, we're all fully committed to Jamaica. Everything Jamaica. We wear purple like how our friend wear, right? Good. Every event. But our kids will have less affinity, and their kids will have less affinity. How do we pull and keep the community together? That's a conversation. We don't have the answers to that. Young people will have the answers to that, and we want to engage you more, right? And that's part of the conversation. I see a hand. Is that Brother Leo Reed? Yeah. Mr. Gillens? Yeah? Oh.
As they grow, you put that green gold and that on their forehead, chest. You bring them home every summer. They see your grandma as a little
Yes, thank you. Yes, we really want to have an opportunity for you to interact with the presenters as well. So the final two, who was first? Mm-hmm. Oh, who's that, Kevin? Where? All right, please. Okay.
Hello. All right, my question would be in relation to Jamaica has a bond market, and I've been researching it. And my question to the panel is, why hasn't the Jamaican government floated a bond for infrastructure development so that local Jamaicans and Jamaicans in the diaspora actually buy into these type of bond investments? Even if it's, let's say, it's a 10-year yield with at least a 2.5 or 3% return.
1-800 Mark.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they have done infrastructure in investments or instruments. I mean, but they have been taken up by the local banks, like, you know, say the NWC instrument. What that was done by NCB. They've done some other ones like that. I mean, I know there's been talk of a diaspora bond for a long time, probably a decade or over, and it hasn't got done. I don't know. I don't know personally if the reason is that the demand is not as strong, or if it's a structuring issue, or if it's a tax ID issue. You know, I know one of the complications when you talk about diaspora investing in the stock market, you have to have a TRN, and the TRN has to be notarized. You know, that is a, you know, an issue, for example. So I'm not sure what the problem is there with the diaspora, but I think at the end of the day, you go for the easiest point, right? You know, you go for the government guarantee, you go for what's guaranteed, and I think the diaspora, it sounds good, but I think there's some complications, which is probably why it hasn't happened, you know, at this point in time.
Okay, we're going to go with our final question for the evening.
All right. So thank you very much, CG Mayor and the panel. So 2 simple, quick questions, easy answers. Mark, what's the minimum amount for somebody to open an account to be able to invest in the Jamaican stock market? And then for the other Mr. Mullins in the room, I'm David Mullins. The tax reform, as far as I understand, we pay worldwide income tax, well, tax on worldwide income as an individual, but a company no longer pays taxes on income outside the US. I just wanted to clarify that. So we invested in the stock market last year. We participated in Cygnus's IPO using a US-based company to invest down into the stock market. So we didn't have to use a TRN to set that up. So what's the minimum to open an account? And do we actually not pay tax as a company on non-US income?
Yeah, so quickly, there's 13 brokers in Jamaica. Everyone you know, has the opportunity to have a different minimum. So our minimum is as low as 10,000 Jamaican dollars. You know, we have approximately 10,600 clients between our Kingston and Montego Bay branch. Other brokers you might go to, and their minimum is $500,000 Jamaican. So again, it depends on who you go to, but we'll start as small as 10,000 Jamaican. You know, roughly speaking, you know, $80 US.
Yeah, so brother David. St. Elizabeth. Yeah, so David, you do actually pay taxes on the foreign income. What has happened though is, remember that the corporate tax rate has been lowered very significantly, right? We're talking about the US though, has been reduced from 39 down to 21. I mean, that's a very significant reduction, and this is why you hear all the discussion how about the tax reform has benefited corporate American wealthy people. And I did a calculation a couple of weeks ago, and if you look at the profit that Apple makes, Apple is literally saving several $1 billion as a result of this, right? So the theory is, David, that previously companies would keep their earnings offshore, because if they bring it back here, they're going to pay taxes at this high rate. So now the theory is that they're going to bring it back. And they did have an interim tax measure which says pay some taxes on everything you have overseas, then you can bring that back whenever you want. And because of the lower rate, you can bring it back. They think people will always want to bring it back. It's not as simple as that, because, you know, obviously there are destinations where the rate is 3%, 4%, 5%. But that's the thinking about it.
Okay, so I think we're at the wrap up for the evening, but I have a giveaway that I'm going to be doing right about now. Compliments of our good friends at Grace. You know, they always give us these lovely baskets. And we've been talking about Jamaica and money and investing and all of that kind of stuff. Let's do a little bit of something connected with Jamaican culture. So anybody, the first person that can come up here and do national anthem, national pledge for schools, anything like that. You know, tell me, you know, the 5 national symbols. I'll give you that Grace gift basket. So how much do you know about Jamaica? All right.
I'm going to do this for my wife, so.
Okay.
Which one? What do you want?
National pledge. Right?
Oh, before God and all mankind, I pledge the love and loyalty of my heart, the wisdom.
Can't hear.
The wisdom and courage.
No. Start over and speak clearly and loud.
Before God and all mankind, I pledge the love and loyalty of my heart, the wisdom and courage of my mind, the strength and vigor of my body, and in the service of my fellow citizens, I promise to stand up for justice, brotherhood, and peace, work diligently and creatively, to think generously and wisely and honestly, so that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, bear in advancing the welfare of the whole human race.
All right. All right, all right. Congratulations. Oh, there's a share of the basket. All right, no problem. We'll do that. We'll do that. All right. So we've had a really awesome evening. Great information. I'm ready. I'm ready. Pat's Fry Fish Shop with serving cannabis on the side is ready for business. But to offer our official vote of thanks, I'm going to invite the Deputy Consul General for Jamaica, Ms. Sharon Burrell, to give you those remarks. The vote of thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now my time is short, so I'm also cutting my little thing that I've scripted here, cutting it short. So I will sort of group persons. Mrs. of Ceremonies, Miss Pat Montague, Consul General Naval Greenwich, all elected officials. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege at this time to move this vote of thanks. It has been a very insightful and I dare say exciting even. And so on the behalf of the Consul General of Jamaica, Mr. Oliver Mayer, and the entire team of the Jamaican Consulate General, it is and on my own behalf, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers, participants, and attendees who grace us this evening in this forum with their presence and with their wealth of knowledge. A big thanks to, I must express my deep sense of appreciation to the panelists who made this forum so exciting. Mr. Mullings, Mr. Crosby, Mr. Scully, when you were finished with your presentations, I'm sure many here were ready and raring to go and invest in Jamaica. Yes. After hearing about the strong double taxation agreement between the United States and Jamaica, we understood from Mr. Crosby how hot Jamaica was as an investment location. And when we say hot, we're not talking about 96 degrees in the shade. Hot for you to go and to put your money in, because Mr. Scully told us that it was the best time at this time to invest in Jamaica. And so I thank everyone here this evening. And I must record my thanks to those persons who are our partners, who have worked with us over time, all the time standing with us. And I'm going to name them. Our sponsors are Jamaica National Bank, Victoria Mutual Building Society, Grace Western Union, Office Depot, Digicel, Jamaica USA Chamber of Commerce, the media, of course, Kingston Mia Trading, and Fari Irie. And so I am cutting it short and I'm taking some things out. And so this evening was a great evening. And I thank you all for coming. It has been a great pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. God bless you.
Okay. Before you all leave, just one final thing. There's a gentleman here who's an artist who would like to make a very special presentation at this time to the Consul General. So we're going to invite him to come up and do just that. Mr. Blackwood.
Good night. Well, it's my pleasure to hand our new Consul General a small token of one of my painting for your hard work that you've been doing so far. And we do appreciate you, sir. And thanks much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, remember our panelists are available for questions afterwards. We have a little refreshment, I believe, on the outside as well. It's time to mingle and ask any more questions that you have on the outside in a more informal setting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Bless you.